Okay, so let's get real in your business for a minute. If you're spending more mental energy tracking your competitors than you're tracking your customers, you're listening to the wrong voices. And I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. I'm just saying it because I've lived it. I've been in that loop where you see somebody else launch a new feature or run an ad, say something clever on the internet, and suddenly you're rethinking your whole business model. And if you're a dad building a business, that comparison loop is not just expensive, it's personal because you don't pay with just money. You pay with attention. You pay with stress. You pay with your presence. Welcome to beabossdad.com. My name is Joel Haasenritter, and I help high-achieving dads scale their business without failing their family. And today, I want to give you 3 voices to listen to if you actually want to scale. But before I do, I want to personally invite you to the 5-day Boss Dad Challenge, where in just 1 hour a day for 5 days, we install the Boss Dad framework, which is balanced owner, strategic shepherd, so you can actually scale your business without failing your family. Go to beabossdad.com or click the link in the description. Okay, let's get started. I know you know this scene all too well. It's the end of the day. You finally shut down the laptop, but you don't really shut it off, do you? Your body is home, but your mind is still in that client email, still in that Slack thread, still in what if our competitor is about to eat our lunch spiral. And I know how this story goes because it usually looks like this. You walk in the door and your kids are doing the thing that kids do, where they don't really care about your calendar. They don't care about your pipeline. They don't care that you just had a hard conversation. They just want you. They want eye contact. They want presence. They want connection. And you want to give it to them, but you're still carrying the day. Your nervous system is still buzzing and your mind is still working. And what happens? You're sitting at dinner and you're there, but you're not there. And you feel guilty about it, right? You feel like you're failing at business because you're distracted by home. And you feel like you're failing at home because you're distracted by business. And here's what's wild. You can be doing all the right things on paper. You can be watching your customer acquisition cost. You can be monitoring your margin. You can be scrutinizing your ROI. You can be building systems. You can be tracking every metric. And yet it still feels like you're running in place. That's because most of these metrics are symptoms. They're not causes. They're downstream. They respond to something that's upstream. And upstream is not your spreadsheet. Upstream is your connection to your customers, your connection to your team, your connection to the real problem you're trying to solve. So if you want to scale, I'm going to give you 3 voices you need to listen to instead of the competitor noise. And these map to what I call the 3 Ps of a scalable business. There are lots of Ps when it comes to working in the business. There is your profit margin. There's your posture. There's all of those things. But these 3 Ps are necessary in order to scale your business. The 3 Ps are people, product, and process. And stay with me because I'm not going to give you 10 tips. I'm going to give you a framework that you can install. You're going to know what to do next, and you're going to know how to do it without adding 50 more hours to your week. Here's what we're going to do first. First, we're going to talk about the people, and I mean not just the customer that you're serving, but the team that helps you serve. And then we're going to talk about product, which is really about transformation, not features. And then we'll go through process. And stay till the end because at the end, I'm going to give you a 7-day implementation plan you can actually do without blowing up your schedule. So let's just say it plainly, metrics matter. I'm not anti-numbers. Numbers are honest and metrics are important, but numbers are late. They tell you what already happened. They don't always tell you why it happened. And I want you to hear me on this because if you're watching numbers all day, but you're not watching people, you're watching the smoke and ignoring the fire. The numbers are smoke. The fire is the story. The fire is the friction. The fire is the misunderstanding, it's the misalignment. Your customer acquisition cost is often a symptom of trust. If people don't trust you, it's expensive to acquire them. Your margin is often a symptom of clarity. If your offer is unclear, your team has to work harder to deliver it, and you bleed money in all of the rework. Your ROI is often a symptom of alignment and execution. If the team is pulling in different directions, you burn effort without progress. And here's where the competitor obsession makes it worse. Competitor obsession puts you in reaction mode. They move, you counter. They move again, you counter again. You're always playing defense. You're always late. You're always tired, and you're never building the thing that makes you undeniable. That thing is authentic human connection. So let me ask you a question, and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you changed something in your business, something important, because your customer asked for it? And when was the last time you changed something important because your competitor did it? If the second one is happening more than the first one, there you have your diagnosis. You're listening to the wrong voice. History is filled with companies that had the better product and still lost in the marketplace because they missed the deeper human story. A classic example is BlackBerry. I have a lot of love for BlackBerry. They were a very intelligent, smart company, and they're still doing amazing things. But BlackBerry was more capable in a lot of ways when the iPhone showed up. But capability wasn't the whole game. Apple didn't just sell a phone. It sold a new relationship with technology. It sold a new experience. So today, I want you to stop obsessing over whether you have a better product than your competitor and start obsessing over whether you connect better, because connection wins in markets where features are just copy-paste. And in a world where everyone can copy your features, what can't they copy? They can't copy your relationship. They can't copy your trust. They can't copy the way your customer feels understood. So here's the framework. Here are the 3 voices that you need to listen to if you want to scale without living in reaction. Voice number 1 is your customer's lived experience, not your customer persona you invented in a spreadsheet. Their lived experience, what they're actually trying to do, what they're afraid of, and what they're hoping for. Voice number 2 is your team's behavioral reality, not the job descriptions, not the org chart, but the actual humans on your team with their strengths, their stress responses, their communication and motivation styles. And voice number 3 is your operating system. That's your product and your process together. It's how you create transformation and how you deliver that transformation consistently. Now, here's the punchline. If you nail these voices, you don't have to chase competitors. They end up chasing you because you become the business that feels clear, consistent, and connected. And I want you to notice something about these voices. None of them are on social media. None of them are in an ad library. None of them are in your competitor's feature release notes. You know what I'm talking about. These voices live in conversations. They live in customer interviews. They live in team meetings. They live in your support inbox. They live in the moments that your team tells you, hey, this part of the process is breaking and we need to do something about it. So if you want the shortcut is this. Stop looking outward for your identity and start looking inward for your clarity. And I'm going to make this really practical. In each pillar, I'm going to give you something that you can actually do. You're going to leave this video with tangible tools, not just motivational quotes. So let's start with the customer. This is in the person pillar. So most founders think they're working with the customer well, but they're not doing it deeply. Most marketing is feature-based. Good marketing is outcome-based. The best marketing is meaning-based. It speaks to identity. It speaks to what the customer is trying to protect. What most entrepreneurs get wrong in this is that people don't buy because they understand your product. People buy because they feel understood. Let me use a simple illustration. You've probably heard this before in the business rounds, but I'm going to take it one level deeper, so stick with me on this. You've probably heard that your customer doesn't buy a drill, they buy a hole. And okay, sure, that's better than buying horsepower, right? But it's still not deep enough, because nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what I want today? I want a hole in my drywall, so I'm going to go to the hardware store and buy a drill. They buy the drill because they want what the hole creates. They want the picture on the wall. They want the family memory, the moment that time stood still. They want a home that feels like theirs. And when your marketing skips that layer, you end up in a race to the bottom. You end up competing on price. You end up competing on features, and you end up sounding like everyone else. So here's a tool that you can use. I call it the customer meaning map. It's a type of customer journey. You can do this in 10 minutes, but do it slow enough that you gain clarity, because clarity is going to feel like relief. Step number 1 is the problem. What are your customers trying to solve? What problem are they actually trying to solve? Number 2 is to map that to the feature. What do they think they want, and how does the feature solve the problem? Number 3 is the outcome. What result are they after? Number 4 is the meaning. What does that outcome protect or provide? And number 5 is the fear. What are they afraid of happens if they fail? What are they afraid of happens if they don't get the result and the outcome that they're after? Let me give you a second example, because sometimes we get lost on the drill story, right? If someone buys a CRM, they're not buying a CRM. There's a million CRMs out there, and a lot of them are great. What they're buying is they're buying the feeling that deals won't slip through the cracks. They're buying the relief that their team won't be confused. They're buying the confidence that they can stop being the bottleneck. And if you can speak to that, your customer doesn't hear features. They don't care. They hear safety. The lesson in this is that when you understand meaning and fear, your messaging changes, your product changes, your process changes, because you're no longer selling a drill. You're selling a wall of memories. So the question is, if a competitor copied every feature you have tomorrow, would your customers still pick you? And if the answer is no, then your value proposition is built around features, and features are fragile. But if the answer is yes, then your value proposition is connection, and that is hard to copy. So let's talk about your team. This is the second part in the people pillar, because the truth that a lot of founders don't want to admit is that you probably don't have a scaling problem. You have a people and a leadership problem. And I don't mean you're a bad person or a bad leader. I mean you're trying to build a machine out of humans without understanding the human part. You can't manage humans like you manage tasks. Humans don't run on checklists alone. Humans run on motivation. Humans run on communication. Humans run on trust. Humans run on meaning. And under pressure, humans run on their default wiring. This is why you'll sometimes look at an employee and think, why are they being so difficult? The truth is, they might not be difficult. They might be stressed. They might be cautious. They might need more context. They might need a different communication style. They might be trying to protect quality while you're trying to protect speed. And this is where a lot of founders accidentally create culture problems. They interpret a difference as disrespect. They interpret caution as laziness. They interpret questions as resistance. And then they start leading with frustration. And what happens next? Your best people either shrink or they leave. The ones who stay start playing defense. And suddenly your business has the exact problem that you were trying to avoid in the first place. You then become the bottleneck again. So if you want to scale your business, you need a repeatable way to understand what your team needs to win. You need a repeatable way to communicate so you get the best response. And you need a repeatable way to handle pressure without turning your home into a second office because your nervous system is still in that fight or flight mode. And that's why this is not just a business topic. This is a dad topic because the way you lead at work bleeds into the way you lead at home. And the way you lead at home bleeds back into your capacity at work. So I want to give you a tool that can accelerate your understanding, reduce friction, and create deeper connection. It's one of the first tools I recommend that a business installs right from the bat for any business that I'm working with. The PDP Pro Scan is a quick behavioral assessment, and it helps to reveal strengths, motivators, and communication dynamics. The point is not to label somebody. The point is to stop guessing at what makes people tick. And I want to say this clearly because this is not about putting people in boxes. It's about building bridges. Because when you can see how someone naturally operates, how are they in their natural self, you stop making everything personal. You stop interpreting differences as disrespect, and you start leading in a way that actually gets the best response. So making this practical, imagine two people on your team. You've probably been in this scenario yourself. One person is wired for speed and decisiveness. The other person is wired for carefulness and quality. The fast person thinks the careful person is slow. The careful person thinks the fast person is reckless. So the question is that a character issue or is that a wiring issue? It's not a character issue. Most of the time, it's wiring. And if you don't have language for wiring, you will end up managing by emotion. You'll end up reacting. You'll end up building a culture where people feel misunderstood. And that's a culture that you cannot scale. So here's the line I want you to remember. When pressure hits, people don't become someone new. They become more of who they already are. They move into their backup style of communication and motivation and energy and all of those things. So if you want a scalable team, you need clarity about who your team is and how to communicate that in a way that reduces avoidable friction. And by the way, this is also leadership at home because your spouse and your kids are wired differently than you. And if you treat differences like respect at home, you're going to feel like you're winning arguments and losing connection. So let's do something practical. Grab a notebook or open a doc and list 3 to 7 people in your business right now. I want you to include key leaders and the key roles that affect customer experience. Now, for each person, answer 4 very basic questions in full sentences and write it like you're trying to help them win, not like you're trying to prove a point. The first question, what do they seem to value most? Some people value money and position. Some people value recognition. What do they seem to value most? Number 2, what consistently stresses them out? Number 3, how do they prefer to receive feedback? And number 4, where do conflicts keep repeating? Now here's the twist. After you answer those 4 questions, I want you to add a 5th sentence. I want you to write, if I led this person better, what would I change first? And you notice that's not if I wanted them to do something differently, how can I tell them what to do better? But if I led this person better, what would I change first? Because scaling requires humility. Scaling requires you to stop blaming people and start designing leadership. And as you write, I want you to stop making it about right and wrong. Make it about patterns. Make it about reducing friction. Make it about creating clarity. Your job as a leader is to reduce any avoidable friction so your best people can actually do their best work. That's what scaling looks like. And if you can do that, you stop living in fire drills. And when you stop living in fire drills, you stop bringing fire home. So let's talk about pillar number 2. Pillar number 2 is your product. And this is the part where a lot of people get rubbed the wrong way. So let's just get it out. You don't have to have the best product in the industry to win, but you do need the clearest transformation. People pay for the experience of moving from before to after. They pay for the reduction of pain. They pay for the removal of uncertainty. They pay for a life that feels easier, clearer, safer, and more successful. And when you build a product around transformation, something changes. Your marketing becomes simpler. Your sales process becomes simpler. Your delivery becomes simpler. And your team becomes more aligned because everyone can see what winning actually means. So instead of building a list of features, build a transformation story. What does before look like? What does after look like? And what frictions get in the way? Let me give you a practical set of sentences that you can use to clarify your offer. Before working with us, our customer feels this. Then after working with us, our customer experiences this. And then the reason they can't get there alone, and fill in that blank. And then you can simply say, we help them cross that gap by doing this, fill that in, so that they can experience blank. And if you can't fill those sentences in clearly, that is not a marketing issue. That's a product clarity issue. But if you can fill those sentences in clearly, you can scale because clarity scales. So let's talk about how you build the product without burning the team out and without guessing. Here's a simple way to stop building products based on opinions and start building them based on hypotheses. I want you to think like this. We believe a specific customer has a specific problem. We believe that they will take a specific action if we provide a specific solution. And we'll know we're right when we see a very specific signal. That's not corporate jargon, that's disciplined learning. And I'm going to slow this down because this matters. When you do not build with hypotheses, every feature becomes a fight. Your team argues, your marketing guesses, your customers get confused, and you end up with a product that has a lot of stuff, but not a lot of transformation. So here's the structure again. We believe that a specific customer is struggling with a specific problem. We believe they will do or take some action if we provide a solution to that problem, and we'll know we're right when we see a certain signal. That last part is important. And then test it. You don't have to bet the whole company. You can prototype. You can pilot. You can do a limited rollout. You can do a simple version. You can do a minimum viable prototype. Notice I didn't say minimum viable product. A minimum viable prototype that just tests the core features to see if there's any demand out there in the marketplace. Are you actually building something that matters enough to your customer for them to spend their hard-earned money? Your goal is not to be right. Your goal is to learn fast because speed comes from learning, not guessing. And if you want to scale product development, you need a repeatable way to learn what works without betting the whole company on a hunch. All right, so now the third P in the 3 pillars of scaling, and this is the process. This is where high-achieving dads get trapped more than anywhere else. If everything lives in your head, you don't have a business, you just have a personality. And I say that with love because I've been that founder. I've been the one who thinks that nobody can do it like me. I've been the one who thinks it's faster if I do it. I've been the one who works late because the business can't breathe without me. And that's that provider pressure trap I've talked about in other videos. You're not just the owner at that point. You are the system. And what that looks like in real life is that your team asks you the same questions over and over. You answer them over and over. You get frustrated that they don't think on their own, and they get frustrated that you micromanage. And in reality, what's missing is not intelligence. What's missing is a shared operating system. This is where I want to reframe something boring into something that's meaningful. An SOP is not a boring document. It's a future bedtime story that you get to read. It's the system that lets you shut the laptop at 5 p.m. and be fully present with your family. And when you hear it like that, you stop treating process as paperwork and you start treating process as freedom. So let's build one process together right now. Pick one repeating process in your business. It could be onboarding. It could be the sales handoff. It could be fulfillment. It could be customer support, whatever it is. And then write 5 things in full sentences and write them like you're training a capable adult, not like you're writing instructions for a robot. The first is write what triggers the process. Second is write the outcome, meaning what does done look like? Number 3, write the steps in order, even if it's messy. Number 4, write the standards, meaning how you'll know that it's done well. Number 5, write who owns it. And then add one more sentence at the end. Add, if the owner gets stuck, and by owner, I mean the owner of that process. If the owner gets stuck, the next step is to, and fill in that blank. Because what kills delegation usually isn't mistakes. What kills delegation is uncertainty. When people don't know what to do when they get stuck, they just wind up coming back to you, and then you become the bottleneck all over again. So you don't have to make it perfect. You just have to make it real. Real beats vague every single time. And if you want a cheat code on this, just record yourself on Zoom doing the process and talking through it. Then you can give an outline with those bullet points on what does success look like, what happens if you get stuck, all of those things. But then you've recorded this entire SOP in 5 or 10 minutes doing the thing in the way that you want someone else to do it. So let's talk about this delegation, because this is where the boss dad either becomes free or stays trapped. And I did a whole video on how to delegate well. Delegation is not a personality trait, it's a skill. And like any skill, it has steps. Most delegation fails because the founders delegate tasks without delegating context. They say, do this, but they don't explain why it matters, or what good looks like, or what decisions the person can make without coming back to you. So here's a way to delegate that actually works. You're just going to hand off 3 things. First, you hand off the outcome. You say, here's what done looks like. Second, you hand off the standards. You say, here's how we know it's done well. And third, you hand off the decision boundary. You say, here are the decisions you can make without asking me. Here are the decisions that you need to escalate back. And now the person is not just doing a task, they're owning a result. So the micro framework for you is to pick one $10 an hour task that is constantly repeating in your business that you probably shouldn't be the one to do it. Document it as a simple SOP, make that Zoom video, and then train the person once. Have them watch you do it, then watch them as they do it, and then let it go and schedule a time to follow up. If you need motivation, borrow mine. Delegating isn't losing control. It's buying back a ticket to the school play. And I want you to feel the difference between those 2 identities. One identity says, I'm the hero. The other identity says, I'm the designer. One identity burns out. The other identity scales. So here's the big picture. People drives product clarity. Product clarity drives process simplicity. Process reliability creates trust with people. And that's why this is a system. This is not 3 separate ideas. This is one congruent operating system. So if you're stuck, ask which side of the triangle is weak right now. If your customers are confused, you probably have a product clarity issue. If your team is inconsistent, you probably have process issues. If your culture is tense, it's probably because your people are misunderstood and they don't feel like they're being seen. And this is where you stop comparing to your competitors. You stop copying their features. You stop reacting to their marketing. You stop second guessing your value every time they post something. And you start building your own operating system that is rooted in connection, because connection gives you stability and stability gives you scale. So let's bring this back home, like literally. Your legacy won't be your valuation. It won't be your exit. It'll be the memories that you create. It'll be the answer your child gives years from now when someone asks, "What was your dad like?" And I want to talk to the provider in you for a second. The provider in you thinks, if I just make more, then I'll be able to relax. The provider in you thinks, if I just get through this season, then I'll be present. The provider in you thinks, if I can just fix the business, then I'll be able to fix the family. But that's the trap, because seasons become lifestyles and lifestyles become legacies. And that's why I like the idea of LOI, which is legacy on investment, not just ROI. ROI measures money. LOI measures meaning. LOI measures the strength of your relationships. LOI measures the culture of your home. LOI measures your ability to walk in the door and actually be present. The point is not to be perfect. No one can ever meet up to that standard. The point is to stop building an empire that cost you your family. Let me give you a practical rhythm that makes this real. You don't drift into harmony. You design it. I want you to plan your week in a way that protects both high-impact business work and non-negotiable family moments. And I want you to hear this. High impact is not what screams the loudest. High impact is what moves your future, and your future includes your family. So put the date night on the calendar. Put the workout on the calendar. Put the deep work blocks for your business on the calendar. Put the kid pickup that you forgot last week on the calendar. And if you're thinking that just sounds rigid, I want you to reframe it. It's not rigid. It's protective. It's you treating your family the way you treat your biggest client. It's you treating your health like the asset that funds your legacy. Because if it's not on the calendar, it's not a value. It's just a wish. So let me give you one of the simplest family systems that I know. It's called the Weekly Family Sync. We install this in the 5-Day Boss Dad Challenge. It's the single most important 20-minute meeting of your week. And look, it's a huddle, not a lecture. This is not about dad giving orders. This is about the family getting aligned. And here's why it works. It reduces surprises. It reduces resentment, and it reduces the constant background anxiety of what are we forgetting this week. It gives your family a sense of teamwork. Here's the agenda. First, cover the logistics and all the key events that are happening in the week. That's the what. You talk about who is where and when. Second, you do wins and high fives. That's the wow. You let your family talk. You create a culture where effort is noticed. And then third, pick one big goal for the week as a family. That's the we. Maybe it's a family walk. Maybe it's one dinner together with phones away. Maybe it's helping one kid with one thing they're stressed about. The goal is not to do everything. The goal is to create alignment. And when you do this consistently, your home starts to feel like a team again. And that's the point. You're all on the same page. So let me make this whole thing really practical. Here is your 7-day plan. On day 1, you're going to map the customer meaning map for your number 1 offer. Write it out in full sentences because clarity lives in language. And ask yourself, am I selling a drill or am I selling a wall of memories? On day 2, you'll do the Team Connection Audit on your key 3 to 7 people and add that 5th sentence. If I lead this person better, what would I change first? On day 3, write out an SOP using the trigger, outcome, steps, standards, and owner structure. And then add the last sentence. If the owner gets stuck, the next step is this. On day 4, delegate one $10 an hour task. You'll delegate the outcome, the standards, and the decision boundary around it. On day 5, plan the week using the Harmony Matrix thinking. You'll block the high-impact work and the non-negotiable family moments. And on the weekend, run one weekly family sync. The line that I want you to remember is this: momentum beats motivation. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to start and gain some of that momentum back. So listen, you're not behind, you're not broken, you're not failing, you're just listening to the wrong voices. So stop comparing to your competition, start connecting. Connect to your customers, connect to your team, connect to your operating system, and watch what happens when your business becomes clear, consistent, and most importantly, human. And remember, if you want help installing the operating system with guidance and accountability, join the 5-day Boss Dad Challenge at beabossdad.com or click the link in the description. That, my fellow Boss Dads, is how you move your business beyond your product, beyond your systems, beyond your features, pushing past your competitors and into a space that deeply connects with your customers so you can scale your business without failing your family. I'm Joel Haasenritter. Win at business, win at life, be a boss dad.